remember what my life was like previously before giving it over to God. And I was a rascal. Yeah, let me just keep it 100. I was a rascal. And God has now put me in a position where I can be an evidence producer.
Amen.
And really, that's where we should be as family. We should be evidence producers that the Father sent the Son.
Amen.
No, the family is the cornerstone of the church.
Amen.
Without the family, the church don't exist. Even if there are singles in the church, when we come together in a corporate body, we don't call it, we call it the family of God. We call it our church family. And I realized that one of the reasons why people are not flooding into the church the way that they should be flooding into the church is because we have not yet learned to be evidence producers of the fact that the Father sent the Son. I realized that my life has to, okay, one. Is it working, Lenny? Okay, I realize that one of the reasons why we're not, I was reading this book called What's Your Genius by Jay Niblick. Jay Niblick started a company out in the West called Intermetrics. And for those of you who remember what Intermetrics is, they serve the DISC assessment in which Preach came and trained us on a couple of weeks ago, right? And he says everybody has a natural talent and gift that cannot be taught. I'm telling you that there are people who can go to schools and get training for what you do naturally and still not match up to what you do without formal training, if you will. God has given each and every one of us a specific gift and talent. But what the enemy has done in terms of the family, because I realize that as family members, when we operate in our gift, the family is so much stronger. And at the root of family is marriage. And I realized that when other people look at you and you are a married couple, like for real, we don't have time to be wilding out. We don't have time to be arguing. I'm praising God because Faith and I are in a space right now that even in our difficult and in our challenging moments, it's not the difficult and challenging moments. It's how we handle the difficult and challenging moments. So in other words, Tab, when we're disagreeing, right? We don't never disagree in front of the children too much because we don't want them to mistake us for arguing. One time I remember Nico came and said, Mommy and Daddy, what are you arguing about? And I said, son, we're not arguing. We're just having a difference in opinion here. Clear indication, send them away. We go into the room and we close the door and we begin to talk. And my mindset is from day one. Oh, come on. From day one, Faith and I said that no matter what happens, divorce is not an option. Amen. Why? Because marriage requires love. Love requires commitment. And commitment requires abandoning all exit strategies. And so we have the mindset that faith is not the problem. Quest is not the problem. The problem is the problem. And we will work together against the problem and not each other. Evidence producers. And when we're out in the public and they see me touching on her and loving on her, that ain't no show. I'm in love with that chick. Why? Because they're saying if it don't work out for Quest and Faith, then how in heaven's name is it going to work out for me? If it don't work out for Tab and Lenny, then how in the world is it going to work for me? If it don't work out for Gloria and Darren, then how in the world is it going to work for me? What you don't realize is that the marriage is at the foundation of the family. And if that falls apart, then everything falls apart. I don't care what you're building. Me and Faith don't do life around one another. We do life with each other. Oh, come on, somebody. I was reading further on in the book, John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And he said that there was a doctor, right? And this is the reason why we're frustrated, because we don't have a clear vision as to where we should go with the family. And I'm saying in this season, oh, come on, we should build our families by design and not by default. Amen. Oh, come on. And I realized that we're not intentional. We're not deliberate about where we're going. And because we're not intentional and we're not deliberate, you don't have a clear vision as to where you go, such that when the bumps in life come your way, you don't know what to do with the bump and you become frustrated. Why? Because it knocks you off your high horse. I was reading in Dr. Maxwell, he is a plastic surgeon, and they started doing some research about, a physical appearance and how it affects success in a number of different areas. And what Dr. Maxwell said is that the brain can't tell the difference between a synthetic thought and a thought that's real. Providing that the synthetic thought is detailed, it's real, you can smell it, you can taste it, you can feel it as though it already happened. That's the reason why I think vision boards are so effective. Why? Because you have a board in front of you that reminds you of what the goal is. Faith and I just started working on one recently. Every morning, Tab, I got to get up and look at it like, Yep, that's it. That's what I want the family to look like right there. That's what I want my relationship with God to be right there. House I want to live in right there. Car I want to drive in right there. People I want to help right there. Tuitions I want to pay right there for other students. Yep, vision. Because without a vision, the people do what? That's why some of us are so aggravated right now, because you don't have a clear vision. And I got a clear vision of what I want from my family and what I want to do for my future. So clear that as if it has already happened. Try to remember your fondest memory. What was your fondest memory? Just go back there for a moment, if you can. And I don't care how long ago it was. Thanks, babe. Although I was too late. Just think about your fondest memory. It could be 5 years ago, 10 years ago. You remember it as though it was yesterday. You can remember the smells. You can remember the tastes. You can remember the feelings. You can remember the atmosphere. And I'm telling you that if some of you start putting a vision in your head as to what you want your relationship with Christ to look like, oh, come on, somebody. Because wherever the mind goes, the energy flows. Oh, come on, somebody. The Bible declares that whatsoever a man thinketh, so is he. And our families are in the position that they are because we don't have a clear vision as to where we want to go and what we want to do with our families. Imagine what this church would be like if all of us were as clear as we were about some of the other things that we love in this life. If we were as clear as we were about Game of Thrones. Somebody asked me the other day, did you watch the last season of Game of Thrones? Sweetheart, I'm trying to sit on the throne.
Oh.
I ain't got no time to be watching nobody Game of Thrones. I'm trying to create my own throne.
Okay.
Pastor, how much time we got? 5. Thank you. And so I realized that I need to have vision. I need to have a plan. I need to build my family by design and not by default.
Amen.
Went up to Chicago this week and we did the marriage conference out there. And I promise you, I sat there and I was almost in tears because I was in a room full of people. And I'm like saying to myself, not saying it aloud, but how did you get here? Knowing what you know about yourself, knowing that the rascal that you were, how did you get here? 2 things. By his goodness, grace, and mercy, and because I was intentional and deliberate. Some of us, you sick and tired of losing, but you ain't sick and tired enough to make a move. I know my children get on my nerves. I get on their nerves sometimes, but guess what? I'm going to ride them out until the day that they die or until they become successful, and then they'll come back and thank me. Y'all, for real, I'm not only trying to leave an inheritance for my children, I'm trying to leave an inheritance for my children's children. Why? Because that's what God called us to do.
Amen.
Oh, okay. All right. So since we're using word, let me do this real quick. Yep, Deuteronomy 2. And the word of God says, then we turned and journeyed into the wilderness in the direction of the Red Sea as the Lord told me. And for many days we traveled around Mount Seir. Here's the sweet part. Then the Lord said to me, you have been traveling around this country long enough. Some of us, you have been sitting in the position that you have been sitting in for too long. It is time to make some changes in our church. Y'all ain't watched the news. While I'm sitting there in the back a while ago, Sid said it to me, and then I looked on my my news feed, and I found out that Iran just fired some air missiles over into Iraq or the U.S. base. The signs of the times are everywhere. I'm not one of them dudes who preach, you know what I'm saying, fire and brimstone, but I keep my ear to the street. Why? Because I need to be informed of what's going on. The word declares that we should occupy until he comes. That's why I love Matthew 25 so much. I've been in this book for, I promise y'all, at least the last 5-6 months. Why? Because I realize that everyone in this room, God has given you a specific talent. He has given you a specific gift, and you need to operate in that gift, because if you don't, he's coming back to ask you, what did you do with the gift that I gave you? And I saw what he did to the servant who said, I was afraid. First of all, I never gave you the spirit of fear. So if you're afraid, that means you was having conversations with the devil.
Okay, for real.
Because that's where that comes from. I gave you power, love, and a sound mind to make decisions. And I realize it. We're scared. And scared for what? When the sole controller of the universe got your back.
Amen.
And so as we navigate through these next 2 weeks, we're going to take a dive into Matthew 25 as it relates to the family, because the families of the church are the ones. Oh, this is where we come for corporate worship. The real work is the 6 days that we out there.
Amen.
And the question at the end of the day is, how are you building your family? By default or by design? Being intentional and deliberate. Because when we leave this church, we should be outside being evidence producers that the Father sent the Son. Thank y'all.
Amen.
What's up, guys? It's your boy Quest. Listen here. If you are married, you need to be at the Grow Marriage Conference. If you are engaged, you need to be at the Grow Marriage Conference. If you're divorced, if you're single, if you're looking to be in relationship, you need to be at the Grow Marriage Conference. Let me tell you something, the gems that we've been dropping. Last year, we did Atlanta. We went from Atlanta at the ending of the year to Chicago at the beginning of the year, from Chicago to Miami, and now we're coming back to Atlanta. That's right, we're coming back to Atlanta. May 29th to the 31st, we'll be in Atlanta, Georgia, bringing what? The Grow Marriage Conference. Listen, guys, don't take my word for it. Here are a couple of people that attended the conference.
We were extremely blessed today with the information. It's certainly going to help us. We can't wait to go home and start putting it into practice. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. The whole day was a blessing. Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
We were invited by my sister, Shonda Scott, and when she first told me about it, it was like, we don't need to do that, but all good relationships need adjustment. We didn't know what kind of adjustment we needed, but when I tell you, I am so thankful to just be able to have a sounding board, because when you're so deep in, it takes a lot for you to see the problems, and when somebody can, without even knowing you, point out what's not right or what's going on, and I needed this. And I know walking away from here that my marriage is gonna grow and be better. I don't wanna cry.
So you see, right? I didn't have to tell you. They told you. If you want to be in the building, do me a favor. Save the date, May 29th through the 31st. Why? Myself, my wife Faith, my boy Preach. Oh, come on. Jorge will be there. Kayla will be there. We are bringing back to Atlanta the Grow Marriage Conference. And now this one won't be a one-day conference. This will be a 3-day conference. And I promise you, it is going to be unlike anything that we've ever done at the previous conferences, right? We're going to cry together. We're going to laugh together. But more importantly, we are going to grow together. So y'all remember, May 29th through the 31st. Who else going to bring sharing you all of this information and all this good stuff. No, nothing in the Grow Marriage Conference. Don't meet me there, beat me there.